we doing this? Really? Wait for it. Are we doing this? Wait for it. Pow!
What the fuck?
WTF.
And it's also, what the fuck?
What's wrong with me? It's time for WTF.
What the fuck?
With Marc Maron.
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fucking ears? What the fucksters? What the Fuckingham Palace guards? There you go, UK. There's one for you. And it seems like that's all I'm going to do today. Welcome to the show. I am Marc Maron. This is my show. This is WTF with Marc Maron that you're listening to now. Welcome. How are you? I hope your jog is going well. I hope your drive is going well. I hope you can live through another day in your cubicle with me saying hello to you. Hello. Well, do the old Marty Allen. Hello there. Hello, people. And if you're lifting weights, be careful. Don't overdo it. If you're walking with your dog, give him a pat on the head and say that's from Mark. Look, we have a couple of guests. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jim Gaffigan's going to be here today for a few minutes to talk about, Gaffigan stuff, his book and whatnot. And then Martin Starr, who I talked to for an hour. I enjoy Gaffigan. I want you all to know that when somebody like Jim comes by to talk about his new book, it's not a paid spot. It's because, Jim's got like 900 children. And, not 900, but at least 5. And he's a hilarious guy, and he's an old friend. And he wants to come by and talk a little bit and talk about his new book. I'm like, sure, buddy, anything I can do to help you maintain this incredibly unrealistic life you've gotten yourself into by continuing to produce children. And he loves them very much. I'm just saying, you got to help a guy out. There's people who are broke, then there's people that, they got to, it's like, Papa Jim's never going to be able to stop. But all that aside, I always like talking to Jim, and he'll be by in a few minutes. And then Martin Starr, that was an interesting conversation. Wasn't sure where that was going to go or how that was going to work out. You don't think about Martin Starr and think like, boy, that guy never stops talking. But he was great, sweet guy, interesting life. And there was a lot of stuff to learn about him and to, put some other things together about some of, the shows that he was involved with, like Freaks and Geeks and Party Down and other things, and where he went and what he's up to now with Silicon Valley. But he was an intense guy, and I really liked talking to him. He asked me to do something with him, but I haven't followed up on that. So maybe I should call him. I don't have to do it right now, but perhaps I should do that soon. Hey, I've got a message today from Rock the Vote. Yeah, that's right. Rock the Vote. All of you MTV generation people remember Rock the Vote. So why are we talking about it now? Why am I talking about Rock the Vote now? Well, the midterm elections are coming up, and midterms are notorious for low turnout, but these elections will make a major impact from local politics on up to Congress. So rock the vote. Maybe you've seen Rock the Vote's Turnout for What video with Lil Jon and Lena Dunham and Fred Armisen and Natasha Lyonne and others. It's already been viewed more than 7 million times on YouTube and Facebook. And it has a simple message. This is an election year, and you should really turn out, people. It's not about Republicans or Democrats. It's about making sure your voice is heard. Check out the Turnout for What video on YouTube and go vote on November 4th. Okay? Can you do that? It's your duty. It's your civic duty. It's something you should do. Go out and do it. Not unlike jury duty, which I have avoided. I don't avoid it. It's weird. I talk to people about jury duty. Like I get summoned for jury duty, and I freak out. I'm like, I got to be on the road. I got work. My work. It seems to me that maybe I'm mistaken, but it seems to me when the original idea of jury duty was put together, they, anticipated people primarily worked in town. A lot of times my work is not about town. A lot of times there's a lot of, there's a lot of things in the balance. There's scheduling and stuff. And I freak out. It's the last thing I want to do, but there's part of me that really wants to do it. The one time that I called in to serve, it was over, it was December, and there was just no trials going on. So I got off then, but I was sort of ready to do it. But this time you do get a few postponements when you're in the racket I'm in. And maybe everybody does. I don't want to say I'm special. But so I just got the summons, and I freak out, and I say to my friends, I'm like, what do you guys do with this jury thing? And everybody I talk to is like, nah, I just don't respond to it. I'm like, but you're a bad American. You're a shitty American. You just don't respond to it. You just leave them hanging. So they just shoot these summons out into the wilderness, hoping they'll get somebody. And I think that's true. I think they're like relatively desperate for people to show up. But I do feel it's my responsibility. But not unlike many responsibilities in my life, I'd like to, push it down the road a piece until I got no choice. And then I will do it. So well, I'll let you know how that goes. I'm still Ebola free, which I'm happy to report. I hope everybody else is doing as well. Again, I know it's been a tough few days for you self-centered people with mild flu-like symptoms, and the people that are in real trouble or real panic. I'm sorry you're going through that, but I as far as I know, I'm still Ebola free, going on 51 years. Listen up, fantasy sports people. You're getting to the halfway point of the football season. If you still haven't started playing FanDuel, you're missing out on a chance to win your share of $10 million every week. Pick the players you want, set your lineup, and put down as much of a deposit as you want, and you're ready to go. The money is real, and entry fees start at just $1. There's no season-long commitment, no upfront fees. Play every week or whenever you want. If you've already been a bust in your season-long fantasy football league, just hit the reset button with FanDuel and try to get your piece of $10 million. Go to FanDuel.com and click on the microphone in the upper right-hand corner. Use the promo code Maron and sign up now. If you're a new user, FanDuel will match your first deposit dollar up to $200. The offer is only good for the first 50 people that use the code Maron. Every week is a new season at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel, FanDuel.com. Use the offer code Maron, Maron. Okay? So Jimmy is in town. Jim Gaffigan was here, and he said, why don't we talk for a while? And I'm like, all right. So we talked for like an hour and a half, and I told him it's going to be a while before I get that up. And he said, I got a book coming out. And I'm like, all right, why don't we talk specifically about the book and about the incredible weight. Not that he's chubby, but I just mean he's got... He's a worker, man. He is definitely a worker. Jim Gaffigan's book, Food, A Love Story, comes out tomorrow, October 21st, and we chatted for a bit. So let's go to me and Jim Gaffigan chatting. Jim, thank you. It's nice of you to come by, but I got to say that it's weird that you're going door to door with the book.
Well, I just think I think this is an important community out here. And, but
it's not even, it's just out today. And, shouldn't you be doing something else? I mean, I understand that. I'm also giving WTF stickers. Well, okay. Well, thank you for doing that.
It's like Food, A Love Story and WTF stickers, and also Stamps.com.
You had to write this book, though.
Stamps.com.
Thank you. Stamps would be very happy. What is my code? Stamps.com, code WTF.
Maron, WTF.
Are you using Stamps.com?
Well, ever since I started listening to your podcast.
All right.
There's 2 episodes that are dropped every week, and it's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. But now the book, I kind of make fun of you sometimes because when people go, Gaffigan's great, he's one of the best comics working, but he talks primarily about food.
Yes.
And but it's funny.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, it's
we all eat.
I think we do all eat, and I think there's something about the topic of food where I just stumbled into it. Where look, you start off doing stand-up, and you try on different kind of personas.
Right.
And you eventually just go back to the persona you had, right?
Right.
But there was a moment where I was angry, I was smoking a cigarette, I was more like a tell, and I was,
you
energetic.
Used to smoke, that's right.
Yeah. And so then I came back to this guy who's just kind of this... He romanticizes laziness and the what I want.
Yeah.
And what I found with food is I could talk about food, and there wouldn't be any grimace in the audience of I don't agree with this premise.
I find that with cats. It's bothering me. But you can talk about animals, and you're not going to have... Everyone's going to be like, oh...
Oh, it's interesting. I make a reference to saying that I'm a cat lover, right?
Yeah.
And I can feel some of the dog lovers going, all right, I guess we'll let it go.
Yeah.
But the thing with food is, even if somebody is, a longshoreman, or they eat lobster every night. They don't care if I don't like lobster. It's just a vehicle for jokes. And
do you like lobster?
No, I don't. It's just bug meat. Because there's not a nickel's worth of difference between that and a scorpion.
No, I get it. And what about shrimp? Nothing?
That's a cockroach.
Yeah, I know. So you really feel that way?
Peel and eat.
Yeah.
That's a cockroach.
Okay, yeah, but but you don't like the flavor?
I mean, I'll eat it because I'm a pig. I like butter. Yeah. I like cocktail sauce. You dip anything in cocktail sauce, it's pretty good. So but the food thing, it's getting to the point where, I want, maybe this will be the end of this chapter.
What are you talking about?
This book is 330 pages. It's like I've covered every topic.
So you're saying you're retiring? I'm
going Garth Brooks from food.
Really?
No. Of course not.
What the hell would you talk about?
Laziness
and your kids.
Sleep.
You don't do much about your kids. Do you?
I try and keep it to a minimum.
Really? Why? Because you thought maybe it'd be hard to find a new angle, or are you just protecting them?
No, I'm protecting the audience. I was that 26-year-old in the audience watching comedians talk about their wife or husband and kids, and I was like, I don't want to hear it. So
sometimes they need to hear it to learn.
So I'll do like 5 minutes in a special about my wife and kids, but other than that, it's like.
Really? But that's odd because, romanticizing laziness, food.
I mean, I do
lack
Hot
of
Pockets.
exercise.
Hot Pockets is 6 minutes, and you'd think that, like, when I talk to people, they're like, it's your only joke. Some people think that.
Well, that's what landed. What are you going to do? Hot Pockets was the culture's gateway to you.
It was a blessing.
Yeah.
And a curse.
Right. Is that in the book, the Hot Pocket?
Yes, that's the name of the chapter, Blessing and Curse.
It is?
Yes.
About the Hot Pockets bit.
Yeah, I was on CNN on Veterans Day talking about veterans' rights.
Yeah.
And on the icon below, Doug Stanhope sent me this picture. I think it was Doug. No, it was somebody else.
Yeah.
And my name was listed as Jim, quote, Hot Pockets, unquote, Gaffigan. That's how I was listed when I was talking about veterans' rights. So it's like, there's a blessing and a curse, right?
Right. But do you still do people still call it out at the show?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Do you do it?
Yeah, I do it as an encore at the end. I don't care.
They love it.
Well, I'll see, because, I'll look at my audience, and sometimes there will be, a 10-year-old in the audience, in the front row, and he's just sitting there, and, I can talk about weddings. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. But when I get to Hot Pockets at the end, it's all been worth it for him.
doing it for the kids.
No, well, some of it is, it's just, you have a show with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and there's a little bit of, like, let's clean it up at the end.
But I think that you're selling yourself short on the idea of exploring your personal life, even if it's with kids, because I think that it makes an impact on young people. Because if something is funny, it's funny. Like, even when I was a kid, I'd see older guys talk about their wives, and you'd still get a kick out of it. And, somehow or another, it's going to define some things.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But there is something about, you got to manage what you're, you can't just, in my belief, you can't just make it kind of like, and this is what I think is interesting.
Right.
It has to be, a show. There has to be, like, I have some jokes that I love that work in Brooklyn. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I have like 10 pages of New York City jokes that maybe work on Long Island.
Right.
But, the Bell House.
Sure.
I love doing them at the Bell House.
But they're not going out to...
They're not going anywhere. They can't even, I could do it maybe in the East Village.
Yeah. Not Ohio, though.
No. No. But they're not Subway jokes
But
either.
this book will speak to everybody because it's about food. And there is a chapter in there about your struggle with the blessing and the curse of the Hot Pockets bit.
Yes.
And your struggle with food in general.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. It's not kind of like, I'm going to change my life. It's like, I like to eat. It's one of the
celebration.
Like I wrote it with my wife, and she was like, you should have a disclaimer at the end saying that that these thoughts are wrong.
Did you put that in?
No, I didn't do that.
You don't feel it's wrong.
Because, look, we're all grown-ups here. We know we're not supposed to have a Big Mac every day. I do, but you're not supposed to. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
I mean, look, when...
I'm the guy who gave you a coupon for a free pint of Ben & Jerry's.
That's right, and I'm the guy who took it.
Yeah.
and put it in his pocket so he wouldn't lose it.
Yeah, you bet you won't.
So,
All right. Well, good luck with the book, man. I'm glad it's out now.
thanks so much.
Yep. I enjoy Jim. I enjoy him coming by. I like that. I like seeing him. He's one of those guys that I was around. I was around when he started, and we've known each other. I've seen him through a lot of different weights and a lot of different. I've seen him, gradually. I remember Jim with hair. There's, it was nice to see him. Oh yeah, you know what I did is I watched this new. Someone sent me. People send me shit, and let me tell you something. I appreciate everything you send me. If you're sending me records and all that stuff, books, whatever it is, I appreciate it. It's gotten to a point where I don't know exactly how to thank everybody. I'm not always great at, following up on email. Sometimes if I like music, I'll tweet about the music if I like it. I do generally listen to almost all the music that I get, and I do browse through the books, and I do read the letters that you send, and I appreciate it, and it makes me feel good, and I'm glad that you guys enjoy the show, and I'm also glad that you feel like you can get stuff to me, and I'm glad that you think that I'm going to love it and I'm going to say something about it on the podcast or tweet it. That's the gamble, though, really. You're rolling the dice with that, and I think you know that. And I also want to tell you that sometimes I don't have room for everything, so if the stuff doesn't stick, or I don't say I love it, or I want this around, or I'm not, or I'm done giving it the shake it deserves, it will enter the ecosystem. It will enter the book system. It will enter the used record system. Just know that I'm not running a warehouse here. I might need to open one because I am a bit of a pack rat. But someone sent me this Looking for Johnny, The Legend of Johnny Thunders. It's a documentary about Johnny Thunders, the guitar player for the New York Dolls and the Heartbreakers, who I knew very little about, but always fucking loved his tone. And it is a fucking brutal story, man. It's brutal in the sense that, he was a victim of himself. Drug addiction is fucking mind blowing, but there was a sweetness to this guy, man. It just, holy fuck. There are some days where I am so grateful that I didn't get strung out on dope and that I didn't, continue using drugs, and that, that I have a daily reprieve from this shit. But but on another level, I'm now becoming this guy, and I'm not proud of this, but I'm traveling with a thermos of coffee now. Like, I have to have a thermos of coffee in my car at all times. Granted, not the worst addiction in the world, but it's a little fucked up because I don't know if I'm getting the buzz I used to. I got the thermos of coffee. I got my nicotine lozenges, which I think I've had it. I think they're fucking up my body. And I've had this conversation with you guys before. That I have the desire to kick, but it's the same shit. It ain't heroin, but man, I am definitely in I'll kick tomorrow mode, traveling around with my thermos of coffee, doing speedballs of nicotine lozenges and fucking coffee, crashing out at 3 because I can't keep my head up. I am on a drug cycle with this shit, and I'm not in denial about it. Obviously, it's relatively manageable. It's not ruining my life, but come on, man. A thermos of coffee. I'm leaving for the Comedy Store at 8 at night to do a show with a fucking thermos full of coffee, and I'm still going to sleep at night. It's crazy. I'm not Johnny Thunders, okay? But I'm a little strung out, and I enjoyed that documentary. I'd like to thank whoever the hell sent it to me. I don't even know if it's out yet, but it's it was good, man. If you like that period of music, that pre-punk New York thing, and how the impact he had on punk music, and just his fucking tone on that Gibson Les Paul Jr., man, just spectacular. Let me give you a monkey report. I couldn't be more thrilled that my cat is doing well. He's not only doing well, he's back to his excited self. He's running around. He does this thing in the hallway where he does sort of this bobsled move where he runs down the hallway, and when he turns the corner, he runs up the wall a bit and then down. He's just all full of juice, and I'll tell you what I did, man. I just laid off him. I didn't give him the second run of antibiotics because I thought he was spent. And, when he got sick and he started puking and he was deathly lethargic, I went away for the weekend. I had my friend watch him. We come back. And, I came back and, he was still kind of fucked up and I was nervous, but now I got him on this urinary tract food and I'm very diligent about giving him the wet food and about, giving him some love. And the guy is all full of the beans. He's back. Monkey's back. Thank fucking God. What else is going on? You know that feeling you get when you can get things done with the click of your mouse. It can't get more convenient than that. One-click shopping, one-click emails, one-click podcasting, which is all it takes for us to publish this show. Well, it also only takes one click to get all your mailing and shipping needs. One click on Stamps.com, and you'll be able to do all of it without leaving your desk. Stamps.com turns your PC or Mac into your own personal post office that never closes. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter or package using your computer and printer. Then just hand your mail to the mail guy or gal or drop it in a mailbox, and you'll never have to go to the post office again. Right now, use my promo code WTF for this special offer. Start a no-risk trial plus get a $110 bonus offer that includes a digital scale to calculate the exact postage for letters and packages. You also get up to $55 of free postage. Don't wait, people! Go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. All right. I got to have some coffee. I haven't done one of those in a while, have I? Pow! I just shit my pants. JustCoffee.coop, available at WTFpod.com. If you get the WTF blend, I get a little on the back end. That's a classic. It's a classic plug. All right, look, this interview with Martin Starr was very moving to me, and it was nice to get to know him. So I hope you enjoy it as well. Martin Starr and me talking. Where do you live?
I live here.
In
Westwood.
Oh, you do? In Westwood?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had anyone here in here who's lived in Westwood.
Now you have.
It's a big day.
Yeah.
And that's just where you settled in Westwood? You're like...
Just the beginning of the new barriers we're about to break. I grew up in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But where in Los Angeles?
I was born at Santa Monica Hospital, St. John's.
So you're always here?
I've always... I lived in Florida for 1 year, which was a terrible year of my life.
That sounds like a good place to start. What year was that?
I was 15. I had bought a dog in Los Angeles 2 months before we left. That was like a pit bull.
Was that after Freaks and Geeks?
Oh, way before. Well, not way before, but a
few years.
A year and a half.
Your whole family moved to Florida?
Just my dad and I.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right after the divorce, or how'd that work?
Divorce was when I was 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your dad decides like we're going to Florida?
He was getting remarried.
Uh-huh.
And so his my stepmom is living in Florida with her family.
Mm-hmm.
So she had 3 kids.
Uh-huh.
This is where it gets a little complicated. She was also my aunt.
On whose side? Your mother's? Is your...
My mom and my dad
mm-hmm.
Are married.
Yeah.
And my mom's brother is also married.
Okay.
The 2 people not in that family of my mother and her brother get married to each other.
So your father and... I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So that must have caused some drama.
Yeah.
So
it was bound to.
So let's go back to the dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd just got a dog, and I think the most... it was just heartbreaking to have to leave this dog.
Yeah.
I bought it off the street from a homeless man who had clearly just stolen it.
Yeah.
And I didn't piece that moral decision together, but I basically stole a dog for $5.
$5 dog.
$5 stealer.
It's a $5 dog.
So I bought the dog, and then I had to give it up 2 months later before we moved to Florida. And
it's a heartbreak. The heartbreak.
Yeah.
It is kind of sad, though, right?
It was sad. Yeah, I still think about that dog. It was this like beautiful white pit bull with a brown diamond on its forehead. Called it Casper.
Okay.
Really beautiful dog.
And you don't know what happened to the dog?
We gave the dog to a friend, and that guy took good care of it, as far as I know.
You never checked back in?
I didn't really know the guy too well because we didn't know anyone that could take the dog, so it ended up being a friend of a friend.
Right. But so you found the dog a nice home, and then you go to Florida with your dad for the worst year of your life.
It was pretty terrible, yeah.
Well, you're 14. I mean, that's a big. You're cognizant. You're awkward. You're in high school, and then you're the new kid. What part of Florida?
I was 15, and Tampa, middle of Florida.
Yeah.
Middle of the shaft.
Familiar.
The hanging flaccid dick of Florida. It's just a terrible place.
So not even a nice beach.
No, they're like these murky, disgusting kind of waters that are warm year round. So I guess it's nice in the winter when it's 70.
Yeah.
But like in the summer when it's like 110, you don't want to be in warm water.
It's gross. It's like
Yeah.
going into a bath.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
So it was just an awkward year? Miserable?
Yeah, I mean, I think we started off in the summer. One of the most memorable, terrible things that happened was I was lighting off fireworks, and perhaps this is my own karma to get myself into this place, but I was lighting off fireworks, and I just noticed that my leg hurts a little bit, and I looked down, and ants, red fire ants, had been coming up. I'd somehow stepped directly into an ant pile, and they just were running up my, like, it was literally like just red all the way up my leg.
Oh my
and
God.
up this like poncho that I was wearing 'cause it was raining a little bit.
Yeah.
So they were just all over me, and I was stripping, running back to where we lived, stripping off all my clothes and down to my underwear as I ran into the door, and then stripped my underwear off and jumped into the shower immediately to take a really cold shower.
Yeah.
And it still didn't work. It's just so painful.
Florida.
Ugh.
Awful. Couldn't even enjoy the fireworks.
No.
How many did you get off before the ant predicament?
I don't know. I think one or two.
Oh, man. The whole day ruined.
It was pretty terrible.
Were you by yourself?
No, I was with my dad and I think my brother.
So you just had a bolt? Did they tell you, go, get it?
I just ran. I didn't know what to do, and I think my dad told me to go hop in the shower, so I just ran back.
How many brothers you got? Just you and your brother?
I have 3 stepbrothers.
Okay.
Zero full-blood like brothers or sisters.
You were an only child?
Siblings. I'm an only child for the most part, yeah.
For the most part, other than the stepbrothers?
I mean, yeah, they weren't around too much.
Right. But I mean, for the first 14 years, you were sort of an only child?
Well, my dad had a previous marriage, so he'd been married once, then married
Before
my
your
mom.
mom.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had
then got
some
married.
stepbrothers from there.
I have a stepbrother and 2 stepsisters.
Wow, so 6 total.
Mm-hmm. And they're very interesting people, beautiful, lovely people.
Is that sarcasm?
No, I mean that
good.
in all genuine.
That's nice.
I have an interesting family, yeah.
Yeah. And so what brings you back to Los Angeles? Just sort of like, fuck Florida?
Yeah. I mean, that was a big part of it, yeah. It was, get me the fuck out of here.
You gonna go live with mom?
I did, yeah. I came back and lived with mom and her boyfriend at the time, this guy, Frank.
Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Good guy?
Yeah, really good guy. I think he meant well. Really good businessman.
Yeah.
He was very business-minded. And even at that age, because he was around when I had started working on Freaks and Geeks, and he was kind of like pushing me to do more business-minded things with whatever, the product that I was selling. That's kind of how he would look at it.
Right.
And now I understand, but then I was just like, I just like acting, man. Like, I don't know why you got to make this like a thing where I'm like, I'm a product. But he had a good head on his shoulders in that regard. I just don't want to be, I don't know. I never really, business wasn't
Your thing?
Yeah, or part of like why I do this.
And when did the acting start?
Well, my mom had a business that kind of revolved around acting.
Which was?
And she moved out here to be an actress. It was called In the Act, and it was a business where casting directors and producers and directors, I think, as well, would come in and share with a class of actors that had, paid $20 to come to this class. It would share with them scenes from something they'd worked on or something they're doing now or something like that.
Right.
And they would kind of like give notes afterward, after cold reading. So they were like basically cold reading workshops with producers and directors and casting directors.
Did your mother ever succeed in acting at all?
Yeah, she's worked for the last, since she came out here when she was 18 or 19.
Oh, yeah?
Or maybe a little. Yeah.
Like anything we'd know?
19, 20. She's had parts in a lot of things. She was in like Beastmaster way back when. She's been in a lot of stuff, man. Yeah? She's, she was in Silicon Valley, but unfortunately for time, they ended up cutting her out, but hopefully at some point she'll be back. And it was totally independent of me.
Really?
Mike Judge, had just cast her, and they were like, I think we cast your mother. and then I was really excited.
So you guys are pals?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like every relationship is a bit of a work in progress. Ours certainly is.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've recently taken up Clippers games together a lot.
Oh,
So
yeah?
we're kind of bonding over sports.
And where's your old man?
My dad's in Florida.
So he's just down there.
Mm-hmm.
He's stuck with that one.
Yes.
He leveled off.
He did it.
Yeah. He found one.
He did.
So when do you actually start acting? How old were you?
I think the first time I did anything officially, I was young. I was real young. I probably was doing classes and stuff with my mom. She would always find scenes where if there was one extra person in a workshop,
Yeah.
then they would do a scene with me.
Yeah.
And I think those people didn't like it because I would always outshine them. I would always outshine them just because
Oh, in her workshops, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I was just there, if there was an odd man out, then I would go and do a scene with that person. And some people were kind of excited at it, and other people I think were bitter, and they were like, this fucking kid's going to steal all my thunder.
Just by virtue of being a kid.
Yeah, just you have quality, you just don't care. There's a nonchalance even just being there, so whether you're good or not.
That's, I think, what everybody aspires to. You got to get back to that
Yeah, totally.
when you're older. So were you going out auditions when you were that young?
Yeah. I think I worked on a Bank of America commercial.
Nice.
I'd done a couple other small parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And were you a natural or what?
I don't know.
But did your mom teach you? I mean, were you ever trained as a kid? Or?
I think when I was, I definitely kind of got training later, but that wasn't until, I think it was 8, 9, 10. I started taking a class with this guy, Kevin McDermott,
Yeah.
at a place he had started called Center Stage LA.
Yeah.
And that
Why
was,
that guy?
I don't know how my parents had a connection to him, but once I started going there, I loved it. He was just a genuinely compassionate person, and the way he would throw things out in the middle of scenes sometimes emulates, or perhaps the other one emulates him. But Judd, I think, directs a lot like that sometimes, and a lot in TV, in comedy and stuff. A lot of comedy directors will just kind of throw out ideas, and he kind of always did that during scenes where he would throw something out if you felt like you needed a boost or you needed some inspiration.
And you'd have to improvise around that?
Yeah, it was an improv class.
Okay.
And I always really liked it because I felt like I was getting the reaction from my peers at that point that made me feel good.
Right, the laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part. And even, because we did drama improv as well, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't, what's that like?
A lot of crying.
And you could do it?
Yeah.
But before you started doing acting, were you generally awkward?
I mean, who isn't awkward? I moved around a lot, and I always saw that as an opportunity every time I moved to a new school, because I went to way too many schools. But I always saw that as an opportunity to change the view of my environment on me.
Yeah. How would you do that?
Never worked. Well, I always thought I'll change, I'll be different, and I'll be the cool guy now wherever I go.
You were going to make that decision.
Yeah, that you don't make that decision. I found out after years of trying.
Every school, you're like, I'm the cool guy now. Yeah. No.
But I also didn't know how to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those guys who are cool in high school, who usually grow up to be nothing.
I like the emphasis on nothing.
Yeah. Take that, you sons of. But those guys don't know why they're cool. They just probably are graced with something genetically that they don't even know about, or they just don't care.
Charm and insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just insecure and you don't have the charm part, you're in a little trouble. Mm-hmm. But if you're insecure and you're charming, then the world will be your oyster.
Yeah.
How's that? Is that a good theory?
Yeah. Well,
I just made it up.
I don't disagree with it. I mean, I think those are two qualities that mesh well together.
Charm and insecurity?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Hollywood. Yeah. The entire industry is built on that. So why'd you move around so much? I mean, I know you went to Florida for a year, but you moved around within L.A. too?
Yeah. My parents were very particular about the education that I got.
Uh-huh.
So they would constantly kind of recheck the system and find a new place for me to be.
Even though it meant pulling you out of the social structure? And
yeah. Well, I mean, they just didn't find the system.
Yeah.
And I went to really, quote, prestigious schools.
Like what?
I think the first school I went to for first and second grade was maybe just second grade. Open School, this place called Open School, which was just
like a Montessori school? Like, where everyone just sort of like, yeah, it's up to you guys to decide what you want to do?
No, it was more like it was for smart kids, like intentionally for like smart kids,
Were
like
you-
an academics type school.
Were you an academically smart kid?
I could do it. My pistons were firing in that capacity, but I didn't like it. So
Right.
I didn't do the homework, but I could pass the tests.
Right.
And so that's what ended up being the marker for me of being able to get into these schools.
Right.
Was like I could do that,
Right.
but then I wouldn't get great grades because I didn't care enough to do the homework, and that's not what drove me.
Yeah.
But I think I've really like peaked when I was in. I went to the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, when I moved back from Florida.
So then I guess you were the cool kid there, because everyone's a cool kid there, right?
Yeah, it was. I found it to be an environment that was just free. It was so much more free. I hadn't been in a school environment where people were openly gay.
Yeah.
And that was like, that clearly defined how different this was
Right.
from every other
Right.
educational environment I'd been in.
That struck you immediately.
Yeah. And it was like, that's such a great thing that people were free here
Right.
and open. I mean, there were still like the constructs of the hierarchies
Yeah.
and all those things still kind of parlayed their way into the system,
Right.
you know, and the social structure. But it was just a little bit different.
Yeah, and what were the performing arts? The full range?
Yeah.
Like music,
Music,
acting,
theater,
acting.
dancing, and visual arts.
And did you start doing actual acting there? Like doing plays and that kind of stuff?
When I was just about to do our first year project, would have been my first opportunity ever to do a play, to do actual theater. I left to be a part of Freaks and Geeks.
So you didn't finish the school?
No, it was a really hard decision too. I almost didn't do Freaks and Geeks because I love that school so much, and it took me so long to like to see this environment, to like be a part of this. This environment was so rewarding.
So what grade were you in when you stopped?
I was in, I think I only went there for half of my 11th grade year. That was all of my schooling there.
So did you finish high school?
I did. I mean, kind of. I don't know. Seth and I were living together.
Rogen?
Seth Rogen and I were living together when we were both going to like shot. I think he was like taking tests here or there. He might not have graduated. I know for a while.
He went to the school with you?
No, but he was still like doing homeschooling
Right.
from Canada, from
Right.
his school in Vancouver.
Right.
And I don't know if he ever, then he just kind of stopped. I know that he just didn't give a shit and stopped at some point, because clearly this wasn't going to be a part of the trajectory of his life at that moment.
And it wasn't.
No, and he may have never graduated. I'm not actually sure. But I went to a school where I cheated on tests. Like, they honestly didn't care enough to really monitor anything.
But the choice to take the role over not take it, though.
Oh, no, that was something that I, like, pondered on for a while.
What was the audition process on that? I mean, because that show is so important to so many people and so specific. And your character, that character of Bill, was so pivotal. I mean, like, I talked to Judd about it, and many of the people that I know who like that show, that scene of you just watching television, by yourself, is like one of the most powerful moments of television for a lot of people that I've talked to. And that was that. You sitting there, given your environment, given your situation, and watching comedians and laughing, it's just a defining moment. So walk me through the process of how all that happened, because Judd and Paul were so much younger too. What was it like?
My memory is meeting with Allison Jones and reading for
Casting agent.
Yeah. And just a wonderful human being, like really just a sweetheart. But I went in and saw her, and I read for Sam, and then I think I read for Neil, and then or maybe I read for Sam, and then she brought me back in for Bill. She was like, "Go read this and come back." And so then I came back in and auditioned again, and then she was like, "That was great." And she, like, you could see, she was like, "That was great." And I was like, "Okay." And then I just left. To me, it was just kind of like another audition at that point.
So you had already been sort of you accepted auditioning as not necessarily a personal rejection, just part of the process of trying to do what you want to do.
Yeah. I think now it's a lot harder. It's funny how then it didn't matter. I also didn't think I was ever going to be an actor. I never thought that like that was something that I could possibly do because it seemed so far-fetched to succeed in that arena. And I was very aware that like it wasn't just talent that it took. It took a lot of drive, and generally success in whatever field takes so much more than a single trait or characteristic. It takes a combination of a lot of things, and drive is the biggest one. I'd say for most people.
And
but
you didn't feel like you had that?
No, I didn't think like, I didn't trust myself, or I knew that like within my acting class and my improv class, I felt like the man, but and I felt like I could handle myself there, but I didn't know that I could ever succeed in this business. It's such a huge business.
Right.
But I left that audition just thinking it was another audition. And at that point it was. And then I got a call back, and I think Judd and Paul were there eating pizza or something. They'd just gotten lunch, and they were trying to take care of everybody that was waiting in the waiting room, so they weren't like sitting and eating, which a lot of people will do and just like make people wait. Right. They were like very understanding. They were just very courteous. And so I remember going in and auditioning for them, and then leaving, and then getting called back to go to NBC for tests. So
it's interesting that you know, like you wanted to commit your life to this, but you didn't have that much confidence in it.
I had confidence in my own ability. I just didn't have confidence that like this was the thing. Like I still wanted to be like a veterinarian, or I was still like trying to figure out, you know, when you're 16 years old, you're not, at no point was that like, this is it. Like, this is what I have to do. Right. Because you're still so unsure and awkward, or at least I was. Yeah. I never had this decision. I never made a decision. I kind of like let my environment make that decision. I think after Freaks and Geeks, I was like, oh, okay, so this is it. This is what I get to do. Right. So now I just have to put everything into it.
Okay, so you get cast. They tell you you're the guy. Uh-huh. When do you meet everybody else?
Well, I met everybody at the tests, I think. Well, I met Sam. I met Sam Levine, and I think I met Sam Levine there, and I met John Daly there, and then 3 other people who were testing for each of our parts as well. Mm-hmm. Relationships started to form pretty quickly.
Yeah, with who?
I think James and I became fast friends. Seth and I kind of became friends because we were the same age. And him and Jason kind of bonded. Those three guys became pretty fast friends. And Sam and I used to hang out a lot. And then John, I'd try to hang out with a lot, but because he was 2 or 3 years younger, it was just a different environment, because he couldn't necessarily come and hang out the way that like Sam and I had the freedom of having cars and doing what we wanted, and he was still kind of under the authoritarian household family regime. Right. He had to listen to his father and stuff like that.
So it's interesting. You became friends with James at first?
No, I remember as the series went on, he and I think of the Freaks, Seth and I became the closest, and then James and I became pretty close as well. We started like writing. We wrote a short together, and
are you guys still buddies?
I don't know him very well. I don't feel like at this point.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is a little weird. Yeah, there's I don't know. It's sometimes like those barriers are those bonds are broken, and you don't know where you.
Well, he seems to have taken sort of a different trajectory than a lot of you guys, I guess. Are you and Seth still friends?
Oh yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. So James is the one that kind of went off and did whatever the hell he's going to do.
Well, I think everybody goes off and does what they want to do.
Yeah.
He just was tremendously ambitious and kind of did all these things that, you know, I don't know that I have the desire to do.
Well, so it's interesting to me because like I still, even as a guy who sort of works in show business, that like my feeling is like, well, you guys all have to be friends forever. You know, like it doesn't, like, you know, you get emotionally attached to people who play roles, you know, over a period of time. Yeah. And you just make these assumptions. Like all of them have got to still be friends.
For the most part.
Yeah. So you moved in with Seth like during Freaks and Geeks?
Just after. We were 17. I think we were both 17.
Yeah.
And then pretty shortly after that, I went off to do my first big movie, and I was like, this is it. I'll do a big movie. I did a TV show. I did a big movie. The movie will come out, and it'll be hot shit. And
It'll be gravy.
yeah, I kind of got a big head.
Which movie was it?
Movie you've never seen.
Uh-huh.
It was called Cheats.
Yeah.
It was initially called Cheaters, and then we couldn't name it that because of the Jeff Daniels TV movie of the week
Uh-huh.
that came out by the same name, I think. So we changed the name, and then I don't know. It was kind of doomed. That movie was kind of doomed.
What was it about?
It was about 4 guys who cheat on tests as like a business inside the school. That's what they do. And I was the guy who writes Crazy Small. So like people would, if you were chewing a piece of gum, on that wrapper for the piece of gum would be all of the notes you needed for the test.
Right.
All of the answers would be there. I was the guy who did that. And I also had asthma. And it was a very interesting, fun.
So after Haverchuck, you were like the nerd kid.
I mean, I guess so. I mean,
That was
it would fit, I suppose. But yeah, but that was a nerdy-ish character.
Well, when you were doing that, the Haverchuck character, like that scene, like Judd's recollection of it was that was something from his childhood. Do you remember that scene where you're just sitting there watching television?
Yeah, totally.
What was your experience of it, of doing that?
Judd and one of the other writers was they were screaming out jokes to me because that whole scene is without
sound,
audio.
Yeah. So they were just you're just sitting there watching, and they knew there was not going to be any sound.
Yeah, and they were just screaming out jokes. I was looking at a blank screen at that point, and they were just shouting out jokes that they remembered from their childhood, and what ended up just becoming the dirtiest jokes that they could think of to try to make me laugh.
Yeah,
and they succeeded.
So that's the beauty of acting. That's what really happened. But within the story, it was this difficult world you were living in, and we were experiencing you having the one bit of reprieve that you get from the insanity. And what were you like? What other things did you do? Because like in my mind, when you're a child actor, which you kind of were, right?
For sure, yeah.
Who were you hanging out with? I mean, you're living with Seth, but what do you do for hobbies? Did you build a life for yourself?
Seth and I smoked a lot of weed.
Yeah.
And that went well for a while. And then
It seems like Seth still smokes a lot of weed.
Seth has kept it up.
Yeah. He's committed.
Yeah, he's built more momentum, I think.
Yeah.
I think Snoop Dogg smokes more weed than him, but
just by a hair.
Up there. Well, I asked Snoop Dogg fairly recently how much weed he smokes per day.
Yeah.
And he said a half ounce.
What?
Well, he said depends what day. And I said, today.
Yeah.
He said, a half ounce because I'm working. I said, oh, well, how much on a regular day? Ounce and a half.
Wow.
It's out of control.
Yeah.
I think
you build up a tolerance.
Ounce and a half of weed. Oh, for sure you do. But, I mean...
Do you smoke still?
No, I quit a long time ago. I kind of started... I had trouble sleeping recently, and so I started smoking a little bit of weed again.
Did it help?
To go to sleep, yeah. Works wonders.
But what other things do you do? You're a mystery to me. Like I was concerned. I'm like, I hope we can talk. Because I'm a fan. But I was like, wondering, like, what's his private life like? What's he up to, that guy? What do you do for fun?
Well, I was raised Buddhist, so...
Is that true?
Yeah.
Why would I question that? Are you lying to me? Martin, are you lying to me?
Nope. I'm not lying.
What, you mean like Nam Myoho Buddhist?
Yeah.
So your mom got into that in the 60s, early 70s?
Yeah, my mother and father both got into it in 1981. I was born in 82. And it stuck. I mean, even though I haven't necessarily consistently practiced, it's a huge part of my life and like my fundamental core.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you explain it to me? Will it help me? Because I'm like, you seem very calm and you seem okay with yourself. These are things I don't possess. So if you were to...
you do. I mean,
what does it mean to be brought up as a Buddhist? I've only talked to one other one, and he was, his family was very involved in kind of spreading the message of that particular form of Buddhism at the time that it became popular, because there was a time where it's interesting to me that Los Angeles and Hollywood in particular becomes like this testing grounds for things that would be assumed as cults in a way. But that thing really took off. I mean, the place I remember from it the most is in the Hal Ashby movie, The Last Detail, where Randy Quaid, stumbles into a Buddhist, to that particular form. So I was like, well, that must have been going on in the 70s, because that's where it sort of took off here, right? So what does one do as a Buddhist? What were the things that you learned?
Well, it's based on the principle that everyone is capable of becoming a Buddha, of achieving Buddhahood in this lifetime.
How close are you?
I mean, it's a large goal.
Okay.
But
is it one of those pretend goals? Like it's just to give you hope?
No, I do think it's possible, but it's different from, I think, the way that that Buddhism is thought of, and like, you shave your head and you wear a robe and you go to the top of a mountain and you find peace in nature and away from civilization.
Right.
This counters that entirely, in that you challenge yourself with the superficial realities of our society,
right, and
use those to facilitate your growth and development as a human being. Okay.
So what does Buddhahood mean?
I ultimately like a place of peace and enlightenment, and respect for yourself and your environment. And the ultimate goal of the organization of the Soka Gakkai, which is initially it was the Soka Kyoku Gakkai, which meant Value Creation and Educational Society, and now it's Soka Gakkai, which is Value Creation Society. The ultimate goal is world peace. So
okay.
Seems very simple. It seems like, I should be a beauty pageant winner right now talking about world peace, but it's really like, it's something that we should all be striving for, and I feel like it's a forgotten goal as a human being on this earth.
I think that's probably true. Yeah, because people have gotten very selfish.
Sure.
That, we live in a sort of narcissistic culture.
100%.
Careerists. How do I get what I need?
Yeah.
How do I get to be what I want? So do you chant?
I do, yeah.
Daily?
I try to, yeah.
And does that help? Is that would you consider that meditation?
Yes, and it does help a lot, yeah.
That's amazing. So, like in terms of the practice of chanting and the sort of practical elements of what you get from that, because I'd like to meditate, but I don't. So you've kind of
transcendental. You do TM?
No, I don't do anything.
Oh.
I'd like to. I think it's pretty. I'd like to sit quietly, but I think if you have a chant or a mantra or something, you can just do it. But you did it all your life.
Yeah, it feels very natural to me. I see sometimes people who are, new to the organization or to chanting or something, their reaction to it, and I realize, what we're doing is weird by normal standards.
Right.
But it just seems so absolutely natural to me.
And now, when did you get any flack for that ever?
Not that I remember. Yeah.
Like when
except in our family, because my mom comes from like a very Catholic family, and so I think they dislike the fact that she veered away from Catholicism and God, and the funny thing is, like, both religions practice peace, or like that's their message.
Yeah.
And acceptance, specifically, like, you look into the depth of Catholicism, and it's about accepting other people and the differences and forgiving people.
Right.
And it's so funny how difficult that seems to be as when it's actually needed to put into practice.
Yeah, well, not
to,
shit on Catholics.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, that really wasn't my attempt, but I just thought it was funny that how difficult it was to put into practice when, like, that's one of the fundamental rules of the religion.
Well, I think I think most religions set out to be pretty sort of proactive in terms of people behaving properly and living a decent life, but then the politics of the religion and the the organization of the religion and the powers that the people that take power within religions kind of fuck things up.
Yeah.
But also with Catholicism, you get the hell business, which is a little too terrifying for me to even wrap my brain around.
Yeah. Were you raised
Jewish, conservative-ish Jewish, not real with any real sense of God, or how to use God, or what it really meant. It was always sort of an abstract, never something practical.
Yeah.
And it seems like in terms of what you're dealing with, there seems to be some practicality to it. It's like you can get some relief from engaging in this, and there's not necessarily a deity that needs to be placated or or appeased.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any punishment for transgression. How does Buddhism deal with transgression?
Well, I mean, mistakes are a part of life, and I think.
Is there a list of mistakes?
No, I mean, it comes down to like moral, karmic understanding. So you recognize in your environment how you're treated, and accepting that as something that you deserve, as opposed to something that, as opposed to pointing a finger of blame at whatever is causing you this problem. So you always recognize yourself as the thing that can change in any environment, as opposed to trying to change your environment, because that's always impossible.
But are you supposed to innately know what's morally improper? I mean, where do those lessons come from? Like, okay.
Yeah, but they come more through human interaction, like us talking about what is, I mean, innately what's right and wrong.
But let's say you're strung out on drugs, and you're like, wow, this is killing me, and I just blew somebody for drug money.
Yeah.
But, I'm chanting.
Well, then the next moment, every moment is a new opportunity to find yourself on a new path. So as opposed to looking back and blaming yourself for what has just happened, or blaming anyone, there's no recourse for what just happened. You're now given the next moment as an opportunity to change for the better.
Right.
So taking that next moment as opposed to focusing on how you've already made mistakes.
Right. So that's the sort of eternal present.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But isn't in Buddhism, isn't there sort of a duality concept that, the universe is what it is? And like, what is the basic spiritual premise of the Buddhist worldview?
That everything is interconnected, and that one human being can change the world 100%. But it isn't it's through changing yourself.
Right.
So the constant struggle is human revolution, is what it's called inside the organization. Now I really sound like a cult member. But inside my Buddhist practice, we refer to it as human revolution, which is just basically looking inside yourself and changing yourself for the better, and being actual proof of the capabilities of this practice.
Wow. So, do you go someplace?
Yeah. Well, we used to be connected with. It's all fundamentally based on Nichiren Daishonin, and he's the one that kind of pioneered this idea that everyone can become a bodhisattva, that everyone is a bodhisattva of the earth, and that everyone can attain Buddhahood in this lifetime. And at that point, we were connected with the priesthood.
Yeah.
And the priests believe that in order to attain Buddhahood, that the normal lay practitioners, couldn't achieve Buddhahood unless, I don't think they could achieve it at all. But the priests could help them by being the being the middleman,
right, between
them and God.
Yeah.
And
is there a God?
No, it's the mystic law of cause and effect, karma. But the interconnectedness of all living things.
That's the thing. Mm-hmm. So that the type of Buddhism you practiced was sort of one of these. It took it from a philosophical, almost insulated and very specific idea to something that everybody could engage in. Mm-hmm. So that was the idea. That was the transition into the type of Buddhism that you're practicing. The difference between getting in touch with the big nothing, and just sitting in an enlightened state. This was like sort of like, wait, well, we've got to be able to take these ideas and make them practical and and applicable to everyday people.
Yeah,
and that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to be working. I feel more relaxed just talking to you.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to come to a meeting anytime you like.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that is there an idea that you should reach out to other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was pushed away because I stopped practicing for quite some time.
Yeah.
I think I've kind of been pulled back towards it. Part of that being my father's having kind of health issues. And so I've been spending a lot more time with him, and I've been chanting for his health. And
recently?
Yeah. This is within the last 6 months or a year. And so
you were sort of not as active, and now you're more active again?
Yeah.
So it's a way. Were there other points in your life where there was crisis or frustration and spiritual or existential dilemma that kind of pulled you back in?
Short term, yes.
Yeah.
This feels like a new ground. Like I have a better foothold on it now with this. And
is your father still practicing?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah, is he doing all right or?
He's doing okay. It's a battle, man. It's a pretty severe battle. So we're in the midst of it, but he's got a great deal of hope and determination. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about from your relationship with Judd, because for me, like, I don't watch a lot of television. Like I saw Party Down, and I was happy to see you. And like it seemed like you sort of were in this world of comedies that has become the dominant force in comedy. The people that you were involved with, from Freaks and Geeks, with Seth and everybody. But but the movie thing, when I saw you in Knocked Up, I was like, holy shit! Oh, there he is. Like where's he been? But you've been working the whole time.
No, I'd had a pretty big gap, I think, in between Freaks and Geeks and then Knocked Up.
Yeah.
Party Down came after Knocked Up.
Yeah.
Where like I got a tattoo and like decided I wasn't going to be an actor anymore. And it was mostly due to not feeling respected and encouraged by my environment. I think the people that and I can't blame it on them, because it was my decisions that put me in that position, but like my agents and shit at the time were terrible and didn't really care about me or know how to influence me. In fact,
so there was a problem. So coming out of so this was after Freaks and Geeks, after a couple of movies where you were sort of being typecast as this dorky kid.
Yeah. And
you hit a wall?
I definitely hit a wall.
What'd you get? What kind of tattoo?
I got this thing.
The star. A bleeding star.
Yeah.
What's the meaning?
Yeah.
At the time, anyways.
At the time, I think it's evolved quite a bit, but at the time...
Good, I'm glad it's still evolving.
Yeah, it's still evolving. At the time, it really just represented my what I didn't like about the business and what I didn't want to be consumed by.
Which was?
The selfish nature, the business side of things.
Right.
It wasn't about what I loved about acting or creation or storytelling. It was all money driven, and you really had to prove yourself to be an asset to these people. And they had very specific expectations out of you. Yeah, which were all financial. Like, you really had to meet these expectations that didn't fit into my parameters of desire. And, well, they probably were kind of cornering you to be some sort of clown. Yeah, well, they just stopped working for me, to be honest. Yeah. The only time I got phone calls, and I've felt like that more often than not in my life, that is, for some reason, my place, that like I'm not, that like I feel like agents oftentimes when they are representing me, they're just fielding calls a lot of the time, right? As opposed to like fighting for me to be in movies that they're packaging or giving me opportunities that I don't necessarily have on my own. I don't know if that exists anymore. That type of agent. Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, I know that they are packaging things, but sure. But there's this romantic idea that like he's out there working for me. Yeah. I don't know. They really. There are oftentimes I wonder why 10% of my money goes to someone that, and to be honest, at the moment, I really like the people that I'm with.
Yeah.
I like them as human beings, and I like talking to them, and I feel like they have a lot of wisdom when I talk about the projects that, are on the table or something. But it's still like I don't really know where I stand or how much I'm gaining in a given moment.
Right.
Or a day or
so what was
week
that
or month.
When you got the tattoo and turned your back on it? Like, well, how did that manifest itself? What was your plan?
Well, I got a job for one day as a barista. I got paid $2 to get a test, to go be a test barista for a day. And then that was the only job I think I've had aside from acting. And then Knocked Up came up.
So it wasn't that long a period?
No. And I'd kind of decided I wanted to get back into it. But
how long was it before, when you said, fuck this? I mean, was it years? Or was it...
I think I had quit for a year.
So you had money saved from Freaks and Geeks and stuff?
No, I went broke.
You did?
Yeah.
Now, was there any part of your Buddhist nature that thought, this is an opportunity?
No, I think I was in, I was in the state of hell. I was not happy at all. I was miserable for the most part. I was terribly depressed. Even through Knocked Up, through shooting that movie, I was in a pretty bad way.
So how did that manifest itself? Were you living alone?
I think I was living with my mom at the time. I was 22 or 23. And whatever the case is, I'm sure that's not terribly old to be living with your parents, but I had moved out at 17, so to go back and live with my mom again was just a rancid idea. Just such a terrible...
Like you failed.
Yeah, it felt so demeaning and demoralizing.
And was she supportive?
She was incredibly supportive. She moved...
And concerned, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very, very concerned. But she gave up a lot to help me, including selling her. She had a beautiful place on the beach, which is where she was going to retire, and she sold that and kind of ended up getting fucked over, I remember. But then she sold that so that she could get a much bigger place a little bit further east that we could live in together and have more space.
Oh, yeah, so she was worried. Now, were you on medicine, or did you, what were you doing? You were just, in a dark place?
Yeah.
And you'd given up on the spirituality element of your life, or what?
I was still kind of chanting here and there, but I wasn't driven to do it.
It's weird, because it's not unusual age to go through that.
No.
But the fact that you'd had this success, and that you'd had your dreams sort of shattered for fairly ideological reasons. I mean, it sounds like you probably could have kept working, right?
I don't know.
Oh, they just hung you out to dry.
That's what it felt like, yeah. I remember calling my agent, my buddy David Krumholtz, at the time. I talked to him on the phone. I was like, I don't feel like they're doing anything for me. I was in my car, and I was, just going off to him about it, and he was giving me all this advice, and he was like, this is what you have to do. You have to give them an ultimatum. You have to call them, and you have to say, fuck this. You're fired. Either you're going to start fucking working for me, or you're fired. And so after that phone call, it got me all fired up, and I called, and I said basically that either you start working for me, or I don't think we should be working together anymore. I should be with someone that is going to work for me. And she was like, okay, I totally understand. So, and I was like, well, what the fuck? Yeah. And I realized through that phone call that this is how she'd felt for 2 years, but because jobs had continued to come in,
right,
she was just taking free money, as opposed to telling me hey, I don't give a shit and I'm not working for you at all. She just kind of left me there gathering money for her based on the work that I had
already done.
Yeah, gotten on my own because of my body of work at that time. And
that's a brutal realization.
It was really hard to take that in and realize that this was just a terrible human being. But that's in some way the nature of
the business,
being an agent.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fundamentally, you're just looking to make your company. This is your job to make your company as much money as you can. And so if you drop someone that's even bringing in a small amount of money, of course you don't waste any time working for them, but someone who's bringing in a small amount of money, it's not beneficial for you to drop them yet.
Right. No, they're who knows what could happen.
Yeah.
That guy could get a call, and then I could, get a big payday.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, because there's also this idea, there's a romantic idea of who they are, and that they're working for you, and that they represent you, and that, you have your shoe in the door and all that shit. And, there's something about show business, about the agent, but, well, I don't know if it was the same experience, but you think well, these are my friends, And, my best interest is, they have my best interest in mind. But then there comes that day where you're like, they don't give a fuck. We're just these movable pieces. And if they can't move the piece, they don't mind just sitting with it until it's heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. So you just felt stranded. Mm-hmm. So now you're without an agent and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And your mom, who has been through this, I imagine, before.
Yeah.
Must add some guidance on it.
I don't think I consulted her about what was going on in my life at that point.
Uh-huh. So you're in the darkness for a year, getting bleeding star tattoos.
Yeah. Well, Jay...
Were you suicidal?
No.
You were just pissed.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I've never had, like, a suicidal thought.
Yeah.
But there's a huge difference between having that thought and bringing it into actuality.
Yeah, one is self-pity, and the other one is, you mean business.
Yeah. Yeah. So
then out of nowhere, Judd calls?
Well, I think these things start so much earlier than you're aware of as an actor. And so I think it had been in the works for a while. And perhaps it was one of the driving forces behind, some of the people in my life that kind of came to be. Like my manager now, I know that this thing was happening before he and I were together, but he's done a great job for me in a lot of ways, so I wouldn't hold it against him, but this thing was happening, and he reached out to me, and then, a month later I found out about Knocked Up, kind of happening, I think. And my agent at the time, who was like this small kind of boutique agent, who wanted to be like a painter and, like really kind of live this cliche, like this LA cliche.
Yeah.
I remember firing him because we had a conversation about the business side of it, and I was like, well, I want to be more business savvy. Yeah. If I'm going to continue doing this, I just want a better head on my shoulders so that I don't, feel unaware and blindsided. Yeah. At any point. So I just wanted to ask as many questions, and the first question was, do you think we should get a lawyer? And just to like deal with the fine tuning of the contract and stuff like that. And my agent at the time, who just like didn't care or have a business mind, he was just like, I think this is all we're gonna get. And then I talked to my manager, and he was like, I don't think it'll hurt, and I know a guy who's good who can do it. Who'll do it pro bono the first time around, right? Just to prove his worth, right? So we did that, and it ended up being so crucial to my financial stability for years to come. Really,
for the Knocked Up contract,
which like wasn't it was just like having a precedent of getting something after the movie's released, getting some like getting like allotments of money that were predetermined. Yeah. If the movie reached certain goals, right? Which wasn't a tremendous amount of money, really, especially considering that it had to reach $100 million first, right? But like these small amounts of money meant the world to me at that point because I was completely broke, right? So the fact that like he was just nonchalant, didn't give a shit, I ended up firing him for it.
And it worked out okay because it probably did make $100 million, didn't it?
Yeah, I did.
So after Knocked Up, you do Party Down.
Yeah.
And that was fun, right?
Oh, that was amazing. I was ready to enjoy. Yeah. Again.
Oh, and it turned everything around.
Yeah.
Because Knocked Up, like, if you think about it, like, you tell me you're in this dark place, and that character sort of lent itself to a certain amount of...
Well, I think it has to. I mean, my life had to bleed into that. Yeah. Or else I wasn't being honest. Because it was so defining of my life at that point. Like, it was in every part of the way I was living. Yeah.
There's the darkness and the defeat and the anger. Yeah. Well, that character it's an odd character and was a little bit disturbing.
Yeah. Mission accomplished.
But do you, because you're known for doing comedies, but they are sort of, there's a lot of heart in them, but do you consider yourself a comic actor?
I feel like I'm told it so much that I just have associated it with what I do, but I don't think that's a defining characteristic in what I bring to what I do. Yeah. I don't think it has to be comedic.
So the Party Down that didn't survive, that must have been pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the way it goes.
I'm just fucking used to it now. I mean, to be honest, it's more surprising to me that like right now I'm a part of something that is living up to its potential. that like in all ways is
Silicon
really,
Valley's a great show.
Yeah, it's such an amazing experience to be supported by a network. By an HBO has gone above and beyond what they need to do, and they love the show. So
I'm a tough audience, but I really like it. And I'm in like, TJ Miller used to bother me, but like, I got to give it to you guys. I mean, you really, they're, and Kumail, who I know well as a comic, and, TJ I don't know that well, but, he always annoyed me. And Josh Brenner's on my show. He plays my assistant on Maron, and he kind of pulled out for 3 episodes to do my show while he was shooting Silicon Valley. So, like, I feel like I have something personal, like, not at stake, but, like, I would be more judgmental because I know everybody. But, like, it works so fucking well. It's so funny. And it's so, like, the ensemble works, and the characters are so well-defined, and they seem to really be, great comic characters.
Yeah. We got really lucky, too, at how open Mike was in the evolution of it. Because I think when I first read the script, I wasn't super excited about it.
Why?
Because there was something missing. I think also I'd talked to my friend before I'd read it, and he said the same thing. So I already had that in my mind that like maybe this wasn't the best script. But I remember reading it, and there are pieces there that are beautiful. But there was something in the pilot that, I mean, it's all changed from when I read that first pilot. But aside from what was there, was most crucial is what wasn't there, which like Kumail and I weren't really a part of it. Right. It was more about the two kind of main guys, the guy that runs the house and Thomas's character. TJ and Thomas.
Which one's Thomas?
Thomas Middleditch.
Right. So the main guy.
So it was really kind of about them more, and the side characters in the house were just that. Right. And then these girls that come up to Silicon Valley, and this B storyline, which was these girls who come up to meet rich dudes and fuck them and take their money, essentially, or like become.
But they're not even in it anymore.
They unfortunately just kind of. I mean, even in reading that first pilot, I remember feeling like this isn't like you kind of have to pick one path. Right. You're either following these girls or you're following these guys. Right. Because they don't even really meet up in that first pilot. Yeah. They like barely interact a little bit. And it's just such a different tone. And I think the pilot itself found itself. God, I hope no one feels disrespected when they listen to this. But this is just how I feel about it. They the way that it evolved, really embodies the protagonist. You have someone to root for, and you have this group of guys that came together by way of Mike and Dave Krinsky and Altshuler, getting on board with the evolution of it. And so I wasn't a part of the initial pilot, the script, and neither was Kumail really. And so these characters kind of evolved, and they're like, we need this group. And so the group mentality kind of became a thing, and that's what it is about. This group of really weird guys going on this journey together. Yeah. Well,
the satanic element and the Crowley stuff. Yeah. It seems to be it's kind of something that it seems very suited to you. In the way that he's sort of strangely emotionally disconnected, but very justified in his philosophy, that he's countering what's probably emotional or insecurity on some level with this dark philosophy. Yeah. Which how did you feel about that? What did you resonate with that? Did you have to do research for that? Did you just stick with the script, or what'd you do?
I read. The Satanic Bible.
Anton LaVey's book.
Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible. Yeah. I haven't finished it yet. It's quite a read, but it's really interesting. Yeah. And that's what kind of informed a lot of
just have a shameless good time.
What I brought to it, yeah. Yeah. But it's funny also coming from this place of almost peacefulness. He's just at such he has such confidence in himself. Yeah. And seems to be the only one that does. Yeah. And I think it comes from this place of knowing how this is how the world works. If everybody read the fucking Satanic Bible, you'd also know that giving a shit about anything is pointless.
That's also sort of on some level, in some kind of malignant way, that Buddhism speaks to some of that. Yeah. Not morally. Right. but existentially it does.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Were you able to make that connection?
I mean, I suppose now for sure, but at the time, I think it was purely rooted in this satanic.
And are you having a good time?
Oh my God, it's I mean, I've been really fortunate to be a part of Freaks and Geeks, which I mean, just an incredible experience, top to bottom, soup to nuts, and then Party Down as well, just a great group of people. And the purpose behind both of those shows was very pure. And this as well, like I to be around, I mean, we're like a family, and to be a part of something where you know that whether this goes or not, whether we are forced to be around each other or not, by way of HBO picking us up for season after season, I'll be friends with these people. These are, you know, these are lifelong friends that I've made already.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
And how many did you do?
We did 8 the first season, and I believe we're doing either 8 or 10 the second season.
Yeah, so that just got picked up, and you guys are going. When do you start shooting?
We start shooting in October.
Well, Martin, it was great talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. The time just flew right by.
Good. It was fun too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was great. I loved getting to know that guy. And I don't, we talked a bit about me going to one of them Buddhist meetings, and what have I got to lose by doing that? Maybe that would be it. I mean, it seems like, he got a lot of clarity from it. I'm always nervous, though. I'm always nervous about going to meetings, but maybe I will. I don't even, I mean, it'd be nice to hang out with him on that level, on a spiritual level. Hey, before I forget, don't forget, if you're doing the fantasy sports thing, get in on FanDuel to win your share of more than $10 million every week. Go to FanDuel.com to sign up and click on that microphone in the top right-hand corner to enter the code Maron. And for the first 50 people that use Maron as the code, FanDuel will match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $200. That's FanDuel.com. Enter the code Maron. Yeah, and go to WTFpod.com for all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. Oh, my God. I'm so jacked I need a nap. I went hiking today. This seems to be becoming a tradition, doesn't it? I don't know what I'm going to do. I think that we should all celebrate. I don't want to do that rhythm. I feel like I get stuck in like 3 chords, maybe. That's like a little talking blues business, isn't it? I wish I could sing some I gotta write, maybe I'll write a talking blues about Monkey's bladder. I didn't prepare. I'm not prepared. So I really can't do a talking blues because I didn't write anything. And that's no way to do a talking blues. So let's just pretend that I've written a talking blues. And that right now I'm saying like a very important thing that kind of strings itself out like Bob used to do. And you just keep talking and keep talking, and you don't know when you're going to go back to the G, and you're kind of waiting an abnormally long time for him to get back to the main verses of his Talking Blues, and then all of a sudden you're in it. Boomer lives!